Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review, a comic book podcast at longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. Today will be, I believe, my final look at the DC's New Age of Heroes books. This is about the unexpected. And so, just so you know, first of all, this was one of the books that I ordered where I was kind of excited to read it because the idea of one of the characters really drew me in, and I thought it was an interesting idea, and I was looking forward to reading this. And then I read it, and so you might guess what I might be thinking about it just based on that comment. So, but before I get to those direct thoughts, let's do the usual here. The Unexpected. This is Call of the Unknown, Part 1, Punch First. This is by Ryan Sook, Cary Nord, and Steve Orlando, listed as storytellers, with Ryan Sook doing a cover, which is a nice cover. I'll talk about that in a bit. Mick Gray and Wade von Grawbadger on inks, FCO Plascencia on colors, Carlos M. Mangual letters, Dave Weilgosz, assistant editor, and Katie Kubert, editor. So with the pedigree of this book, Ryan Sook, Steve Orlando, Mick Gray, Wade von Grawbadger, Carlos M. Mangual, you would think that this would be just an outstanding book. I'm not all that familiar with Cary Nord. I just, at the time of this recording, I just found out that he will be on a book with, I think it's Wonder Woman with G. Willow Wilson. I talked about that on the last episode, on the Breaking Late News episode with Travis. I believe that's what it is. I only recorded that episode just a few days ago, again at the time of this recording, and I've already forgotten what I talked about. Such is older age. Anyway, so like I said, I was really intrigued by one of the characters, and there are a lot of characters in this first issue. So much so, and the way that the book was presented, I'll just say for now, I had to write down all the characters and the information about them, just so I could keep them straight, because it wasn't as straightforward in terms of identifying who was who. At least the way I read it. Maybe you had a different understanding. But anyway, the character that I really got into was, or at least was looking forward to reading, was Firebrand. So she has this, what is it? This heart, basically an artificial heart called the conflict engine. And she needs to feed her heart violence every 24 hours to keep herself alive, which I thought, well, that's interesting. I mean, it helps take care of the whole idea that these superheroic or superhuman characters have to fight, to keep the excitement of the comic alive. So I thought that was kind of a bit of a meta, clever way of addressing that. And then on the cover for issue number 1, there's these 3 other characters. You got this blue Hulk looking like guy, this woman who's carrying an axe. Turns out she is a Viking, and then there's the Doctor Strange looking guy with the staff as well. I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. Of course it's Ryan Sook, so of course it looks lovely. So anyway, I ordered the book and I was looking forward to it. And so those are the four main, I'll say, group characters. And so the rest of the cover, let's see. Well, no, I should besides the 4 characters that we see here. So they're just kind of charging our way. There's some magical energies swirling around the top of the Doctor Strange-looking guy, his name is Neon, also known as the Great Unknown. The Viking character is the Viking Judge, or I guess her name is Turid. And then the Blue Hulk guy is Ascendant, otherwise known as Eli. So those are the main four heroes of the story, I guess. And then, so when you open it up, just like all of these New Age of Heroes books, they have the trifold cover. Just like I talked about with Immortal Men, there's an interesting color shift in this trifold cover, similar to what I talked about in the Immortal Men. And so the top of the trifold is this character called, let's see here. See, there's so many characters I had to take all these notes on them and just to keep them all straight. Alden Quench, also known as the Bad Samaritan. And so he's the antagonist of the story. And so he's this kind of, I don't know, he reminds me of what's his name, Bono from U2, the way he is portrayed here with his big sunglasses, this cowboy hat with this reptilian eye looking pendant on his hat. Looks kind of ominous. But he's mostly colored in these pinks and purples a little bit. I'll come back to that in a second. And then on the bottom part is the Dragon of Barbatos, the keeper of the Dark Forge. And he's kind of looking up from amongst all these flames, which are protruding up through the ground that the firebrand is running on the main cover. So it's, again, like I talked about with Immortal Man, it's kind of like this heaven and hell motif going on. And it makes me wonder now, I should go back and look at all the other New Age of Heroes books and see if I recall if they're doing the same thing or touching on those themes anyway. I kind of think they do, but I'll have to go back and look at that. Anyway, I like the cover. It's a great Ryan Sook cover. In fact, it's probably one of my more favorite covers of these books. Okay. So the book opens with Firebrand punching out, I believe that is Killer Croc. Yeah, that's who it's identified. And she's in a bar, she's drinking. You turn the page and she says, so she downs her drink and then slams the glass down and says, "Hit me," which, because she's the person who has to fight every 24 hours to keep herself alive, to feed the conflict engine. You could either take that as, well, that's kind of funny, or you could just kind of go, Guess which one I did. Anyway, but then immediately we launch into basically 2 pages of, this is the character's origin story. I don't know, the transition from the opening of the story, getting us into the environment, the character, what she's doing, to, and here's a flashback now, was just really jarring. And I did not like it. However, having said that, there was a lot of interesting information about the character in here. So she's a former EMT. She died during the Dark Knight's Metal event. Her dad is CIA or former CIA. I forget which. I think he's former. But when she died, he had this place called Civil Solutions, which is a futuristic arms developer, transform her corpse by tempering her skin like flint, as it says in here, and gave her this artificial heart called, again, the conflict engine. Who is this dad guy? Why would he do this? It's like all these questions come to mind. What is Civil Solutions in the DC universe? Why are they doing this? What's the point of doing transforming her like this? Is it to get to create super soldiers of a sort, or there's so many questions here, and of course they don't touch on any of these, of course, and they don't have to. This is the first issue. They're obviously, if their intent is to get us interested in these kinds of things, what job well done. It was just I guess the way that it was presented, I had a real hard time with. But anyway, the next scene, again, we transition to Janet going to her job, and because, she's, I guess, technically dead, and her condition, she can't be an EMT. So what she does is she volunteers at, I think, a VA hospital. And she's been there a little while. She's developed this friendship with a coworker. We have another character introduced in this real quick, just fleetingly. It's her brother Jared, who's trying to get a hold of her, but she doesn't want to talk to him for some reason. And then, we're just barely introduced to this situation, and then the bad guy shows up, Alden Quench, and he just let's see here. So Alden, it's interesting. They show Alden talking in yellow dialogue word balloons here with this reddish text. So he sounds different than other people. There's also this close-up of his eyes, and his eyes are, is that cat-like or reptilian? I take it as reptilian, especially the way his skin is shown. It's kind of scaly looking. At least it's dried and kind of older looking, but he's dressed. He's kind of, I think Firebrand refers to him. I can't remember if it was in the first issue or the second, because I've already read the second issue, as a, here it is. I had to look it up. As a hellbilly maniac. I thought that was a nice way to refer to this guy. But he's kind of dressed like a Vegas cowboy. That's kind of how I thought of him at first. And again, he's, there's a page of this dialogue just kind of establishing himself. And no sooner has he done that, and he says, let's see here, what I want is that fantastic foundry in your chest. Oh yeah, I want your heart. And it's this big splash page of him just kind of hovering above the bed that he's been laying in this VA hospital, and all this lightning is in flames just kind of charging out of his eyes, and the pendant on his hat and out of his hands, and I don't know, it's just so over the top. So over the top. But I guess that's kind of the point of this character. And he knocks Firebrand down, is burning off her work clothes to reveal her super suit, her containment suit. I'm not quite sure why she's wearing this thing. And we see her transform. And that's one of the neat things I did like about this character. Basically, as she fights, her skin turns red, and certain piping on her, certain strips start to glow. And so it reminded me as if she, does have a forge inside her as you rev up the forge. That's not the right terminology, but what do I know about forges other than when you apply more fuel or whatnot, then they glow more prominently. So that's kind of what I thought of it as. And as we see later here, as she calms down from that heat, that fire, that rage, I guess, her red skin starts to diminish, and she gets a more skin tone to her. So she goes from red to orangish, goldish to her own skin color. I thought that was a neat touch from the color artist. And as I mentioned, her super suit or whatever, it's interesting too, because it's basically, it reminds me of a runner's outfit, a one piece, or a swimmer's outfit. It's kind of a one piece thing. It's got a bunch of designs on it that also glow when she's all revved up, ready to fight. which I thought was a nice touch. And then also in some close-up shots, you can see some thin black piping or striping, I guess, in her suit. And I thought, I wonder how much the artist likes to do that. But I mean, I assume that the artists involved here came up with that design, so they did it on purpose. Although I noticed in the second issue that is featured a lot less prominently. It looks a lot more, or presented a little more simply, I guess. So it didn't take long to change that, I guess. There's also this one more costuming thing. On the cover, they show Firebrand with these, looks like exhaust pipes coming off of her shoulders towards the back. So, with this being a conflict engine, I guess that metaphor makes a lot of sense. But I noticed in the book that she doesn't have those pipes until the very end of the book. Last couple pages featuring her in it, which I thought was that an oversight, or was it because of what happens here that I'll get to, is the reason why she has those pipes coming off of her. I thought, well, at first I was just really confused. And quite honestly, that's kind of how I had to read this book several times to try and get everything that they were going for and make sure I got all the details right. And I don't mind having to reread something because there's a lot there to it. It has a lot of depth. I just think mostly this was confusingly portrayed. But anyway. Oh, another thing about the Bad Samaritan, I kind of got the way he's presented here, I kind of got a bit of a Lee Kirby vibe with him. Some things that he talks about, the star-singed verbena, the world forge, and I know that's probably a Dark Knight's Metal thing. Call of Mandrak. That's right. He says, the reason he wants her heart is that he needs it. He says, you can never know what it's like to have your brain splintered, ringing all the time like a sonic depth charge, the call of Mandrak. There's only one place to quiet it, and the devil of Thanagar can get me there. So that's a reference to the dragon of Barbatos. I presume. No. It's the other character I haven't mentioned yet. Oops. So the Bad Samaritan wants her heart to calm his nerves, I guess, so to speak. So as soon as she's attacked, then the unexpected folks, like I said, Ascendant, Neon, and the Viking Judge show up. Kind of reminded me of the situation in The Immortal Men as well, where the heroes just show up. But unlike Caden Park in that book, Janet Falls here is a bit more aggressive and less submissive than Caden was. And so she easily joins in the fight. However, her main objective here is to ensure the safety of the people in the hospital. And she basically forces the other three who come there to collect her, to take her away from the situation so that the Bad Samaritan doesn't get her heart. But she basically forces their hand, and they have to help her, which is, I thought that was nice, a nice touch. But like I say, we get the three characters showing up, and it's just really clunky. They show up, and Samaritan says, "Neon, of course you brought your gang of soft spine evangelists." And then the Viking Judge speaks, and then Samaritan says, the ever throaty Viking Judge, blah blah blah. It's just really clunky and unnecessary. But okay. I will say though, as far as the Viking Judge goes, she has this. It looks like a magical axe, because she makes a reference to. The face of my blade reflects your truth. The entire universe dead Bright Marshall, which is the name of this woman that we see in this just this scene here, weeps for Earth 462. And you Quench, you'll bleed for it. But it's really neat because she's holding her axe and it looks like this kind of light blue smoke comes off of it. And that's where we get to see Quench having just torn out the heart of Bright Marshall, which I presume is Earth 462's counterpart to Janet. Or at least that's the way I want to read it. So then the Viking judge attacks the Bad Samaritan, and the fight begins. There's a point here that 4 pages earlier, Janet mentions how a fight in the VA hospital could destroy it, and what do you know? A fight breaks out. These little weird bits that are tossed our way, and the way that things develop. I don't know. It's just. I know I keep complaining about it, but Neon here in this scene also mentions that Janet's heart has the same heat as Quench's fires of destruction, which is in opposition to Neon's own fires of creation. And so they're sort of elemental opposites or mirror opposites. So I thought that was kind of a neat connection. But what's odd is Neon, so he has fires of, I guess in his staff is fires. Although I'd say I mentioned the Lee Kirby vibe of Bad Samaritan there. That also applies to Neon in his no, not Neon, actually, sorry. In some of these characters' looks. The Ascendant is carrying this. It looks like a fourth world type flashlight / hammer, torch. I'm not sure what it is exactly. He's got this gold chainmail that he wears around his chest, and then around his shoulders and neck, he's got this large bony structure to protect him, I guess. Neon himself, since I'm talking about this, kind of looks like the cross between something that Keith Giffen and George Perez would create. With so Neon's basically his eyes are covered by his hair. That's the Giffen part to me. It's the costume that looks really Perez like. He's got these black robes, but he's wearing these armored gloves that showing as it's glowing like kind of like Iron Man's repulsor rays in his palm. Anyway, it's a really eclectic bunch, and the Viking judge just kind of looks Viking-ish. What's interesting is she's wearing this helmet with these large horns coming off the side, just straight out from both sides of her head, which I thought that was a different kind of touch. If you're going to wear horns on your helmet, it doesn't have to look like everybody else's. Speaking of Earth 462 or whatever number that was, there's also other talk of the multiverse in this. And I always like when the multiverse is brought into things, especially since if it's Earth 462, what happened to the 52 Earths? I must have missed something along the way in the DC universe because I thought we only had 52 universes. And now we have at least 462, or at least we did, because the judge referenced that it was, or Neon, whichever one, mentioned that was a dead universe now. So, I mean, that kind of stuff intrigues me, of course. During the fight, the Bad Samaritan easily takes away the Viking's axe. Somehow it happens off panel, and then uses the axe to chop off the foot of the Ascendant character, and then Neon. I don't know. It's just, how stupid are these guys? Neon is just kind of standing there. Samaritan's coming towards him and they're talking, but then Samaritan swipes and basically cuts Neon in half. But he's not quite dead. His two halves are laying there, and his insides are, well, I guess neonish. I mean, it looks more like pastel to me, but it's color. It's not blood. It's all these colors, which that was kind of cool. I thought that was a neat touch. Then Quench throws Neon's blood, for lack of a better word, onto Firebrand, and including on her chest where her heart is, and then he uses the Viking's blade chops into her heart using Viking's blade, and there's this big kashoom sound effect, and everything goes kind of white. And then we go to the next scene, which is on beneath Thanagar, and this is the devil of Thanagar. So this is Onamar Sin showing up, and he's wanting. Well, we find out that he basically hired the Bad Samaritan to obtain the conflict engine because he needs it. But not only do we find that out, but somehow the poor schlub who is reporting to Sin the events that just occurred on Earth. I'm not sure how that happened. They have some sort of magical Thanagarian crystal ball or something. And then we get just exposition here, some explanation. And it turns out that the Samaritan... so it says, while we hired the Bad Samaritan to retrieve the trace metal in Firebrand's heart, somehow he did more. By some means, he created a new, more powerful isotope never before seen. So we're told about this thing, but then we see it immediately a few pages later. So I thought that was just an odd way to break up that scene, I guess. That seemed to be something that we could have had after the next scene. And the next scene is simply the aftermath of that, I'll just call it an explosion. And it appears that out of these main characters, only Firebrand, who now sports the exhaust pipes in this scene, and Neon are alive. Both the Ascendant, Viking Judge, and the Bad Samaritan are supposedly dead here. We see their burnt corpses. Neon reforms himself and realizes that they're dead. Oh, he says, I can't sense Quench. So apparently Quench, the Bad Samaritan is gone. He starts yelling at Firebrand, it's her fault and all this stuff. And she's like, I don't know what the hell is going on here. Poor Janet. Anyway, so Neon tells her, because if this world is broken beyond healing, if this universe dies... Oh, sorry. I need to back up. They're talking about the isotope now. Neon says that the metal is throwing off a heat I've never felt. It's highly unstable, and he thinks it's recharging. It will detonate again, worse than before. It could punch a hole in the multiverse itself. And he says that bit about the universe. If this universe dies, and then you turn the page, get another splash page in the comic. It's the end. You'd hate to see where it'll be buried, and that's where we see the Dragon of Barbatos. Okay. Well, I think I've already expressed my dissatisfaction with this. I was really looking forward to it. I like the designs of the characters. I thought the conflict engine was novel enough, but the overly simplistic character dialogue and heavy-handed, in-your-face backstories, along with pretty standard superhero art in here. Although, like I said, the colors are I really like the colors in here. It just makes it a mess, and it didn't get any better in issue 2. In fact, I had a hard time even finishing issue 2. I started reading it, and it's like, oh, it seemed to get worse with issue 2. I did read, like I said, I started reading it and I could barely get through it, and I just kind of skimmed the rest of it. But then later, I have to do my due diligence. I did read through everything, and it wasn't as bad as I thought based on my my real quick read of it. But still, the art, I felt in issue 2 was a bit lacking in comparison to issue 1. I had already pre-ordered up to issue 3, but I will not be continuing with this book. I just, besides Firebrand and, well, Bad Samaritan, just because he's just the villain you love to hate kind of thing. The rest of the characters, well, one, the Ascendant, and it may be different in issue 3 and going forward, but 2 of the 4 main hero characters apparently died in issue 1, and I'm like, okay, and then they don't show up in issue 2 either. But why? I don't know why do it that way. Maybe there's a payoff later, I suppose. But so I don't think that this book or any of these characters have any lasting value based on what I've read so far. I know that's a real quick judgment type thing, but there you go. I some of these other New Age of Heroes books, much stronger in comparison, and that's really not saying much. So I'm glad that I think this is the last of the New Age of Hero books, at least the first wave. If I don't even know if there's going to be another wave based on what I've read so far. I don't think that they need to have another wave. So I didn't like Immortal Men as much as I thought. I really didn't like this book as much as I thought I would. And in fact, I would recommend you just stay away from this book because I don't think that there's a whole lot that is redeeming about it. Beyond some stray ideas, some bits of interesting character in terms of the character of Firebrand, perhaps. So what do you think? Were you unexpectedly surprised at my thoughts about this book? Oh, I tell you what, I have been putting off recording this episode. I thought it was because I was busy with certain things going on in my life and then other recordings that I have been working through. But really, I think subconsciously I was kind of putting it off, avoiding it because I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to talk about this book that I just didn't like. I usually try to talk about things that I like, and unfortunately I can't say that about this book. But I was committed to talking about the New Age of Heroes books, and I have done so. I have done my duty, and I will move on to other things. If you think that The Unexpected was the bee's knees, or, at least better than I thought, I'd really like to hear your thoughts on that. Tell me where I'm wrong on this, because, sometimes a book just doesn't grab you for whatever reason. And then maybe you look at it again down the road and you realize, oh, it wasn't as bad as that. Or even, this is really good. I've had many of those in my years of reading comics. So, I don't think this is one of them, but maybe you can convince me otherwise. And if you'd like, you can send me email at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can leave comments at the blog, longboxreview.com. And, or you can also just talk to me on Twitter at longboxreview. Thanks for listening, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.